the archetypes and the collective unconscious. Archetypes being thought forms which are almost, in actual fact they are in many respects, entities in their own rights. An archetype being a collectivization of certain characteristics of a variety of person. The king, the queen, the joker, the fool, the dragon slayer. All these sort of things, they are a part of our collective unconscious. And they have been with us for eternity. And the vast majority of people aren't aware that they are with us because they're unconscious. And so we have to delve in to our unconscious, and we do that by our education, meditation, contemplation, stilling the mind and freeing ourselves of stress, anxiety, and the facets of life that pull and push us and tear at us. Because if we are constantly pulled and pushed and torn at, we can never have a still mind and heart. We will never have the space for calm contemplation. So this is an everyday occurrence for me. I wake up at dawn and I go out and spend half an hour with the animals. Very soothing, very connecting, grounding. Gets me involved in the cosmos, in life, in all its facets, watching it, engaging with it, being with it. Then commence upon my education, and when you read stuff like this, it's every page you just got to contemplate and try to place it in your consciousness, asking yourself all the time, what does it mean for me? And that's what I'm going to be speaking about more in relation to my book. That book, you're going to have to contemplate. It's, like I say, it's a spiritual Bible. Don't take it as my story. Take it as your story. And every time you read what I am experiencing and concluding, ask yourself, what does that mean to you? Because there's no point in you reading my book about me and my life in an abstraction to you. So there's no benefit at all. You have to assimilate the information, and you've got to extract from it what is useful to you. And you may not have had many of the experiences that I have had, but try to be deep and present within them. Many of you would have listened to other accounts and read other accounts of similar things. We need to build up a knowledge bank of these experiences, and sometimes we may try to induce them within ourselves, We can do that sometimes with some things. But then we just have to prepare ourselves for the vicissitudes of life. When we are taken unawares, when we encounter something unexpectedly, and if we have all the armour and all the tools, we will be much better able to deal with those situations, and we won't fall to pieces. The worst thing anybody could ever be in this life is a victim. And that's why you have to know that you are God. You have to rise above all of that stuff that tries to bring you down out there, tries to control you, tries to belittle you and minimize you, like religions. That there's a God out there and he's more powerful and bigger than you. There's not a single semblance of any God that's ever been uttered which is out there. It's all in here. It's either in here or it isn't in here. It ain't out there. Never was, never will be. Nothing is ever out there. Never was, never will be. And so we have to come home. And by sitting in contemplation and meditation, listening to beautiful music like this, it takes you into the theta realm, which is 432 hertz. That's deep meditation. And within that realm, we enter the oneness of pure cosmic consciousness. And then we have downloads and inspiration and connection. But I realise lots of you don't have this privilege that I have taken from the cosmos, because it was offered me. The offer was there for everybody. You've got to work out whether you want to take it or not. You've got to be self-realised and knowing that if you want to, you could. But people get afraid, well, what would that mean? How would I do this and how would I do that? And what about this, that and the other? You know, there comes a point in our life when absolutely none of that matters at all. When we realise that the only show in town is what's between our ears and in our breast. And everything else is fiction. And so then we become our own author of our journey. It's very difficult to realise for many people. Mostly what is required is deep traumatic experience, destabilising experience. Because when things like that happen, you realise that the ego isn't your friend. In actual fact, it jumps ship at any given opportunity and it leaves you drifting on an open expanse. And you go, ego, 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 ego. It's like being Robinson Crusoe. There's nobody there. And so you can either be terrified, enter into deep despair, suicidal, self-destructive, or you can become self-realised. And then you go, well, actually, I don't need the ego. I'm fine without the ego. In actual fact, I'm better off without the ego. So what else is there? What do you feel? I feel something. There's something here. There's something speaking. Yeah, what is it? Don't know. Feels calm though. Feels intelligent. There's no stress So strike up a relationship with that then. What is it? Spirit. Higher self. Where do you find it? In solitude, in deep contemplation, meditation, observation, extending and opening up our awareness, resignation, surrender. Surrender to the freedom, letting go of everything. And just let go of all the things that the ego presents to us. And you say, what of it? Well, if you don't do this, you don't do that, this will happen and that. Well, what of it? Will I die? Well, chances are you won't die. Well, what of it then? Well, how are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to do this? Well, I look around and I go, well, everybody else seems to be paying the bills. What if I don't pay my bills? What does that mean? And then you can look into if you can't pay your bills, and you'll find that, oh, there's some agency here that's going to help me if I can't pay my bills. And you delve a little bit deeper, and you find other agencies that will offer this and offer that. And before you know it, you've entered into another world. Worlds within worlds, people. There are doors. It's like being in a huge room with doors all around. Well, you just gotta explore some of those doors in a calm, peaceful mind, with the strength and resignation of being eternal consciousness. And then before you know it, you'll be self-realized. So those white doves, they come and sit on my windowsill in the morning, in the bedroom and in here, and they're looking at me, and they're letting me know that they're waiting. They're wanting to know when is breakfast time, when's breakfast served today. And then lots of other birds out there, among the squirrels, of course. And we've got a thing going on now. And when I go out there, it's kind of like I'm Dr. Dolittle, talking to all the animals through a certain vibration of stillness, calmness, kindness. And then when you're in that vibration, you do actually enter into this heaven, the kingdom of God. You see, in these metaphors, there's a lot of truth, but it's all symbolic, it's all metaphor, of course. And so, when we do become calm and unthreatening, then we can lay down with all the animals. And you would have all seen people having wonderful relationships with lions and tigers and bears, those sort of animals. When the threat is taken away, stillness is all that remains. And so we enter into the stillness, into the eye of the storm. Oh, wow. But you can't find this place until you sever all connections. And this is why monks go to monasteries, nuns go to nunneries, gurus go to caves, and spiritual people retreat to retreats and their own solitude spaces. And the first thing that you will be encouraged to do when you become spiritual, when you enter into the spiritual path, is to set your stall out. You get a rug on the floor, you got a cushion, you got some candles, you've got some beautiful music, you've got some essence burning, and you still your mind and heart. And then you enter into another world. And then you see the madness all around you. And then when you start to go into towns and cities, having not been in them for some time, you stand there, you sit there, you watch, and you look at the madness. Everybody's dashing around. And you ask yourself, what on earth is going on? All these busybodies. You see, we can see this throughout nature. We see it with busy bees. We see it with ant colonies. We see it with flocks of birds and schools of fish and herds of wildebeest. We see all this stuff going on. And so what are these human beings doing in these cities? Mostly they're just trying to feed themselves. Just like all of the animals, just trying to feed ourselves. In the old days, it would take every waking hour to provide for ourselves food and clothing and warmth and shelter. Now it doesn't take that long. 8 hours a day. That's a special number. And if you add an additional 2 hours of preparation, the to-ing and fro-ing, then 10 hours a day, 5 times a week. It's a lot of time. And then the remainder, well, you got to catch up on the stuff that you couldn't do, don't have time to do. Whilst you're doing that, whilst you're chasing paper trying to feed yourselves. And so then we enter into an unconscious state of anxiety. Lots of times it's conscious. Lots of times we are really aware of it. We can feel the racing within us, in the jitteriness. And probably there's many people that have never even experienced what it's like really to feel that stillness. And in the beginning it scares people. And it bores people. Until in the end, you become comfortable with that which you really, really are, which you have never been acquainted with, save for when you was in the womb. And it's like going back to the womb. And that's what mankind is endeavouring to do here on earth. Find a way back into that womb, back into that calmness, that stillness, that comfort, that protection. That's what we all want at heart. And if we can find that within this chaos, then it's a beautiful thing. And so I found it 14 years ago. And I became the proverbial fly on the wall. Just observing. And that's all I've done ever since. Just watching. Because now, the ego has realized that this experience is awareness. It's awareness from the cradle to the grave. And there's all different sorts of things to be aware of. And some of them feel blissful, and some of them feel uncomfortable. So we have to consciously decide where we want to place ourselves. And that's something most people can't get their heads around. How to do that? And when I was ever giving therapy to people and listening to them, listening to their pain and suffering, dejection and discontentment with their lives, I'd say, well, get 2 pieces of paper and write down on one all the things in your life that you don't like doing. Then write down on the other all the things in your life that you think you would like doing, or you know you'd like doing. And then you go back to the first piece of paper and you ask yourself, how many of these things can I eliminate? How many of these things can I change or transmute? And then it's kind of like, well, if you're not happy in your relationship, well, you've got to change it. Yeah, we've got kids and we're married and, well, do you want to stay unhappy for the rest of your life? Have you tried to work it out, change it? If you can't, you've got to take that giant leap. Oh yeah, well this will happen, that, well yeah, it will. That's how it is. What about your job? Oh, I can't stand my job. Well, change it. Oh, it's good money. I'll never get another job with this money. Well, sounds like you built yourself a nice little prison. Slave to the devil, really, aren't you? Because you've got this job with this money, and then you've maxed yourself out with a mortgage and all the trinkets, and now you're bound. You signed the contract with the devil, haven't you? Oh, yeah. But I'm not happy. No. Well, there's an alternative, you know. Yeah, what? Give it up. Oh, yeah, but then I'd lose this and I'd lose that and I'd lose everything else. But you'd gain something. What would I gain? Peace. Tranquility. Yourself. A relationship with the self, with cosmic consciousness, with Holy Spirit. But when you don't have a relationship with those things, they seem meaningless and you can't get your head around it. Until you have a relationship with those, and then you realise that they are the greatest treasures that life could ever offer you. And you wonder how you never arrived there long, long, long before. But the vast majority of people will never arrive there. And so you, the viewer, some of you may be there, some of you may be on the path, some of you are so far away. Some of you will be able to compute what I'm saying here. You may be able to intuit it. If you can intuit it, then that's the greatest method of realizing the knowledge within. But to most people, I'll just be speaking words. But you see, the words pertain to energy fields. The words pertain to spirit. And when we speak about work, the workforce is self-explanatory. We're forced to work. Then when we speak about got a mortgage, well, a mortgage is a contract with death. Mort, death. Contract until death. Wow. forced to work and under a contract until death. Then you make some realizations. Is this a prison planet? What's happened to everybody? They've been beguiled and hypnotized, deceived. We've all been told that this is life, this is what you want. Go get it. Go get that paper. Go get that mortgage. Go get that death contract. Go get that hire purchase vehicle. Book that holiday, but just pay a deposit now, and then work to pay the rest. All this stuff. It's crazy, people. And so can you imagine, I don't know what your lives are like. You've seen a bit of mine. Do you ever contemplate what your life would be like if it was like mine? Do you ever think you could have a life like mine? Do you ever think you could find what I found inside? Or is it just like you're watching a movie? You see, there's some of you, and you tell me from time to time that you watch my videos for entertainment. But if you're doing that, and that's the only reason, then you're fools. And everything I'm saying is completely wasted on you. It just passes you by. Entertainment. People have often got somewhat angry with me in the past. And they say, oh, I just watch you for entertainment to see, how an idiot you are. And this and the other. Really? Wow. And so, some people, you see, they've got no idea where I'm coming from, where I'm at. And there's lots of people that, oh, you're mad, you are. Look at that mad person. What do people mean when they speak about being mad? Well, when people are acting outside of the norm, outside of their programs, outside of their propaganda, outside of their brainwashing, then anybody else is mad. You can never convert these people. They'll go to their grave thinking like that. They're programmable matter. They've been programmed. They'll die programmed. Some of you see different. Some of you see a whole lot more. Some of you are heading for more. And you realise that less is more. Whereas the fool keeps grabbing and grasping and holding fast onto their enslavement with white knuckles, terrified of being free. Can you imagine, people? How many disillusioned folk out there are terrified of their own genius, of their own godlike nature, of the potential of being free? Anyway, lots to think about here. I'll leave you with those thoughts. Meanwhile, I'll read a few pages of this, because with each one of these paragraphs there is a lifetime of knowledge. You see, when deep, intelligent people, they write about what it is to be human, this human experience, then they call upon such depth And if people read a book like this and thought that they knew about the collective unconscious and archetypes, they'll be so deluded. Because we'll never know those things in their entirety, because they have the depth of infinity. We can grasp a little bit, and the more we read and the more we listen, the more we experience, the more we learn, and the deeper we get. And we acquire a certain wisdom on our journey. And that, ladies and gentlemen, seems to be what this journey is about. Finding the self, which is a paradox, because the closer you get to finding the self, the further it gets away, because there is no self. There's only the illusion of self. And so, at some stage in your journey, you will realize that, like the Ouroboros, you are only ever chasing your tail, or eating your own tail, because all that you're looking for and you're discovering is you. Every single bit of it is already you. You can look for it over there, you can look for it over there, you can look for it under this rug, you can look for it in that cupboard, you can look for it in this book, you can look for it in that person. But what are you going to find in all these scenarios? You're going to find you. You are in that book, you are under that carpet, you are in that cupboard. You are being reflected from every single thing that you bless your eyes upon, that you hear, that you feel, that you sense, that you intuit. It's all you. And that's why certain belief systems will tell you that it's all one. There's nothing separate here, people. Everything is you. And so you choose what you want to be, how you want to feel, what you want to do with your mini sojourn here in this shard of the whole.